Right now, former Senator John Edwards is in court. His former campaign spokeswoman expected to testify about an argument involving his late wife, Elizabeth, and his campaign finance chairman. Elizabeth reportedly furious that they were giving money to his mistress. Joining us now to discuss the merits of these arguments, Joey Jackson, a former prosecutor. Also with us, Rachel Self, a criminal defense attorney. You say intent, Rachel, is the key to this case. Did John Edwards knowingly intend to violate campaign finance laws?
I don't think they're going to be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he knowingly intended to violate campaign finance laws here. You have third-party donations or third-party checks being written to a third party. John Edwards never specifically asked Barron or Bunny for any money. None of the checks were made payable to John Edwards or to his campaign. And the reasonable doubt issue, the place where the doubt is going to play in here, is going to be, was he doing this to cover up his affair from his wife, or was he doing this to cover up his affair for the presidential election? And the question is one where I don't see the prosecution being able to connect the dots. Although they did have a damaging week this week, the defense had a damaging week this week with Button's testimony that John Edwards wanted to change his speech to say "without my knowledge" because it goes to his nefarious behavior in this whole thing. But his credibility's already been shot here. He's already had a bunch of problems here. So I think the jury already doesn't like him, so they're going to have to focus on the law, which jurors do take very seriously. And they're going to have to focus on to whether or not he willfully intended to utilize campaign contributions to cover up this affair.
But doesn't the fact, Joey, that some language was stricken from one of his speeches suggest that he knew all this was going on?
You think, John? Listen, I think the defense needs Rachel on their team. I believe he's in trouble. Juries do what juries do, so who's to say ultimately what happens here? But here's why I think there's trouble. Number one, the defense is arguing against common sense, that John Edwards had no notions, did not know anything in running for president, that money was being funneled to Miss Hunter to support her and then, subsequently during her pregnancy and the child. Had no idea about that. So we are skeptical to begin with. Now you compound that with affirmative evidence that would suggest that he did. From who? From Andrew Young, his top campaign aide, who says he knew everything, right? You have Mr. Toobin, who testified, the businessman who was close with Mr. Edwards, who said he knew everything. Now, you also have the speechwriter who says not only did he make a confession to me that he knew about this money, but it was in the speech and he was going to make an admission and then had to take it out for legal reasons. I wonder what those legal reasons were. And then finally, upcoming, you have Jennifer Palmieri, who is going to talk about this argument where Elizabeth Edwards, of course, was berating and saying, Mr. Barron, what's going on here? Why is this money being sent to her? And John Edwards is right there, but yet he knows nothing. I think there's trouble in paradise here, John.
So, Rachel, there has been talk of putting Rielle Hunter herself on the stand in this case, that the prosecution might potentially call her. Do you think that's possible? Should they do that?
Oh, I hope they don't. I mean, she's such a wackadoo, and I don't think that the best way to close out a case in a strong way is to put an unpredictable wackadoo up on the stand. I would never call her if I were the prosecution. I mean, she might even ask to speak to her psychic while she's testifying. I mean, you can't predict what she's going to do. You never want to put a witness on the stand that you don't know what they're going to do.
Joey, in 15 years on this chair, I'm not sure I've ever heard wackadoo used, but what do you think? Is she a wackadoo, and should she testify?
Listen, who knows if she's a wackadoo or not, but I am in accord with Rachel on this point. Oh, you know she's a wackadoo. Well, maybe, Rachel, maybe. But I am in accord with her on this point. Look, if you want to put a witness on, John, you're going to put them on because it enhances your case, and it makes evidence more likely, more relevant, more probative. You don't need her. Why? Because forensically, they can demonstrate that money was going to her. So why take the risk of putting someone on and ending with a witness who could potentially be harmful to you and who you don't know what they're going to say?
Because, yeah, you don't know. I mean, she might deny the whole thing, might deny that Edwards had any knowledge of it, and in that case, that really hurts the prosecution's case.
Exactly.
All right. Joey Jackson, Rachel Self.
Pleasure,
we'll continue
John.
to watch
Thank
this
you.
case in Greensboro, North Carolina. How the mighty have fallen, or so it would seem.
Indeed.
Thank you both.
How do I transition?
Good to see you both.
Wackadoo.
I don't know.
Just go on to the next story? Is that